Previously on. In 2011, a man posted a chilling account on the Japanese Forum 2 channel, claiming this had really happened to him. Out of nothing more than curiosity, he performed a simple occult ritual he had heard about. From that moment on, his life fell apart. Unable to work and tormented by a relentless supernatural presence, he searched desperately for help. Local monks dismissed his story, and even a psychic recommended by a friend turned out to be nothing more than a fraud. His last hope was Sister S, an elderly Buddhist nun who had long guided his grandmother, but she lived far away and couldn't arrive for another 2 weeks. Until then, he had no choice but to endure the nightmare alone. I had reached my limit. Both mentally and physically. My parents realized I wouldn't last until Sister S arrived. So, despite my protests, they helped me into the car. They never told me where we were going. My father kept repeating the same words. "Don't worry. It's going to be okay." I'd completely lost my sense of time. Before I knew it, night had fallen. It's embarrassing to admit, but with my mother sitting beside me the entire time, I finally felt safe enough to sleep. For the first time in days, I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, it was morning. After so many sleepless nights, I felt strangely refreshed. I looked out the window. The scenery felt familiar. That's when I realized, we had made it all the way to Nagasaki. My parents had chosen to drive instead of taking a plane or the bullet train. They thought traveling that way would frighten me even more. My father drove almost non-stop, resting only when absolutely necessary. My mother stayed by my side the entire journey, making sure I was never alone. No matter how long I live, I'll never be able to repay what they did for me. Eventually, we arrived at my grandparents' house. My parents went inside to bring them out. I stayed alone in the back seat. As I stared blankly out the window, a sudden bolt of pain shot through my neck. It was unlike anything I'd felt before. I instinctively grabbed my neck. My hand came away wet. Blood. Looking at the blood on my fingers, I didn't even feel afraid anymore. Again. That was the only thought that came to mind. I was exhausted. Completely exhausted. Just, leave me alone. I found myself muttering through tears. A few moments later, my parents returned with my grandparents. The moment they saw me, blood running down my neck, curled up in the back seat, crying, they froze. Everyone rushed to comfort me. But by then, I was too broken to hear any of it. "Just shut up," I shouted. Looking back, it's one of the things I regret the most. I'd already lost my job. I'd almost been scammed by a man pretending he could save me. And despite everything, my family was still doing everything they could to help. Then, my father slapped me across the face. That single slap brought me back to reality. I apologized. Oddly enough, after that, I felt calmer. A short while later, we arrived at Sister S's temple. The moment I stepped through the gate, I felt something change. The weight on my body seemed just a little lighter. We walked along a narrow stone path. An elderly man quietly greeted us. He led us through the back entrance and into a Buddhist prayer room about the size of 10 tatami mats. There, sitting perfectly upright on a cushion before a Buddhist statue, was Sister S. She looked exactly as I remembered her. Slowly, she turned to face me. "It's been a long time. You've grown into quite the young man. You got here sooner than I expected." My grandmother looked at Sister S with worry in her eyes. "Will my grandson be all right?" Sister S smiled gently. "Before that, you've all had a very long journey. Leave your grandson to me. Please get some rest in the next room." My parents were already exhausted, both physically and emotionally. They quietly accepted her words and left the room. Before my grandparents followed, they bowed to Sister S again and again. Please, please save him. Watching them, I started crying once more. Now then, come over here. Sister S motioned for me to sit across from her. We faced each other in silence. She studied my face for a long moment. Now, what should we do? The silence became unbearable that I couldn't hold it in anymore. What's going to happen to me? Please, just make this stop. What is that thing? Why is it following me? I can't take this anymore. That's when I heard it. A flat, emotionless voice whispered into my left ear. At first, I couldn't understand what it was saying. Then I realized that it was repeating the same word.
Why? Why? Why?
I never looked away from Sister S that she was staring directly into my eyes. But the warmth had disappeared from her face. Something was standing to my left. I knew it without looking. Even so, I turned my head. It was there. Its body was bent unnaturally forward, its face only inches from mine. I couldn't believe it. This was a temple. Sister S was right in front of me. So why was it still here? It looked exactly the same as it had a week earlier. Its head twitched in tiny, owl-like movements as it stared curiously into my face.
Why? 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 Why?
Over and over, like a broken record. Looking back, I think Hayashi must have heard the same voice. Maybe it whispered different words to him. Maybe not. I had forgotten how to breathe. My body wouldn't move, that I could only stare. Then, it slowly raised one hand. It reached toward the paper talismans covering its face, and began peeling them away. No, don't look. Every instinct screamed at me. But I couldn't move. It's going to show me its face. Right then. Clap. A sharp crack echoed through the room. Sister S had clapped her hands. The sound snapped me out of it. My body finally moved, without thinking. I turned and tried to run. Not yet. Sister S's voice thundered through the room. I froze instantly. I'm sorry, that was frightening, wasn't it? But you're all right, come back. Still shaking. I returned and sat in front of her once again. You saw it, didn't you, and you heard it? Yes, that it just kept saying. Why? I forced myself to answer as calmly as I could. Then Sister S began asking me questions. What do you think it is? Were you afraid? Why were you afraid? At first, I couldn't understand what she was trying to ask. To me, it was simple. That thing was an evil spirit, that I was its victim. There was no other explanation. Sister S spoke slowly, as if explaining something to a child. Yes, it is a spirit, that there's no doubt about that, but I can't say it's evil. It's incredibly powerful, far stronger than most spirits, but I never felt hatred from it. I was speechless. She continued. When a spirit becomes too powerful, it can hurt people without meaning to. That spirit was terribly lonely. It wanted someone to notice it, to speak with it, to touch it, to simply acknowledge that it existed. That's all. You may not realize it, but you're a warm-hearted person. People naturally care about you. I think it was happy that someone had finally noticed it, but compared to that spirit, you were simply too fragile. Just being near it was enough for your body to break down. I didn't know what to think anymore. I'd believed all along that Sister S would simply perform an exorcism, and everything would be over. Instead, she spoke as though she pitied the spirit. After a quiet pause, she smiled. Now then, it's time to help that spirit. That it won't happen overnight, but don't worry. I'll save it. The moment she said those words, I finally felt hope again. It's over, I thought. I'm finally going to be okay. Then Sister S gave me words I'll never forget for the rest of my life. Even if something looks frightening, even if it's something you've never known, remember that it may be suffering just as you are. And remember, it may simply be waiting for someone to reach out and save it. With that, Sister S quietly began to chant. Not to drive the spirit away, but to help it finally find peace. The next morning, I thought I'd woken up early. But Sister S had already finished her morning prayers. Good morning. Go wash your face and have some breakfast. After that, we're heading to the head temple. As I'd mentioned before, Sister S belonged to one of Japan's oldest Buddhist sections. It has temples and practitioners all across the country. Because Japan stretches so far from east to west, the sect maintains two main headquarters. One in eastern Japan. The other in western Japan. Sister S was taking me to the western head temple. Neither my parents nor my grandparents objected. If anything, they seemed relieved. For the first time in weeks, they believed I might finally be safe. When we arrived, several young monks were already waiting. Each of them bowed deeply to Sister S. It was only later that I learned why. Within her sect, Sister S held an exceptionally high rank. I stayed at the head temple as a guest. Even so, I lived much the same way the monks did. Looking back, I'm sure that was only because Sister S had personally asked them to take me in. It was there that I realized how fortunate I truly was. One woman had been tormented by the spirit of a snake for over 40 years. Another had lost her entire family, believing they had all fallen victim to a curse. There were countless people there who had suffered far more than I ever had. Living among them, my own fear slowly began to fade. About a month later, Sister S came to visit. You look so much better. Have you seen that spirit again? No. Not even once. I figured it must have finally passed on. After all, this is the head temple. Sister S smiled gently. Not necessarily. The color drained from my face. She let out a small laugh. Oh dear. I'm sorry. I frightened you again. But there are many souls suffering here. Our duty is to help as many of them as we can. I realized then, she was talking about that spirit, too. Stay here a little longer. Learn while you have the chance. I did exactly as she said. The truth was, I still wasn't ready to leave. Before I knew it, 3 months had passed. Then, 2 months later, Sister S returned once again. At last, it was time for me to go home. I packed my things, thanked everyone who had cared for me, and started walking beside Sister S. Then I noticed, she had stopped behind me. She looked at me with the same gentle smile. Would you like to stay here instead? For a moment, I was happy. It felt like she had accepted me. I smiled awkwardly. I couldn't. I could never live the way everyone here does. I truly respect all of you. Sister S slowly shook her head. That's not what I meant. It doesn't seem like you should go home yet. What? Because it's still here. Every muscle in my body froze. In the end, I wasn't allowed to leave the head temple for another 2 months. Before I realized it, I'd spent 5 months there. I doubt anyone outside my own family will ever care for me that much again. On the day I finally left, Sister S gave me one last piece of advice. I think you'll be alright now. But for a while, come back once a month. We still don't know whether it has truly moved on, or if it's simply hiding. At last, my long stay at the head temple came to an end. When I returned home, my mother had already cancelled my apartment lease. Everything I owned had been moved back into my parents' house. Little by little, my ordinary life finally began to return. After returning home, I turned on my phone for the first time in nearly 6 months. There were countless missed calls and an overwhelming number of emails. Most of them were from Ken. Every message was filled with guilt. I'm sorry. This happened because of me. I found another psychic. I heard about a way to keep evil spirits away. He'd been desperately trying to help me the entire time. On my second night home, I finally called him. The moment he answered, I heard loud voices and laughter. His words were slurred. He was at a drinking party. I hung up immediately and sent him one text. "I'm gonna kill you." The next day, Ken messaged me again. He wanted to apologize in person. That night, he came all the way to my parents' house. The moment I opened the door, I punched him. Twice. The first punch was to ease the guilt he'd been carrying. The second was because he'd gone out partying while I'd been living through hell. Honestly, that second one was just for me. After that, we talked for hours. For the first time since everything had happened, it felt like we were back to being ourselves again. Like a small piece of my ordinary life had finally returned. Then Ken told me what happened to Hayashi after he fled my house. The moment he ran outside, something about him had completely changed. The only thing he kept saying was, "Drive." He jumped into the back seat, desperately ordering them to leave. No one dared argue. As they drove, his condition only got worse. He started laughing. Then trembling. Then muttering things like, "It's not me. I didn't do it." Ken finally panicked. When the car stopped at a traffic light near the expressway entrance, he jumped out and ran. The moment I heard that story, I remembered the spirit leaning close to Hayashi, whispering into his ear. Just thinking about it made it hard to breathe. No one knows what became of Hayashi after that. Ken later confronted the friend who had introduced him. It turned out Hayashi wasn't even a real exorcist. He was nothing more than a con artist, trying to make easy money by pretending he could deal with spirits. Feeling responsible, Ken used every connection he had to search for answers. But no one knew anything for certain. The only explanation anyone could offer was that under the right conditions, something like this might happen. After that, I kept my promise to Sister S. I visited her once every month for the first year. Then once every 3 months during the second. 2 years after everything began, she finally smiled and said, "I don't think you need to worry anymore. But don't ever do anything foolish again." Was it really over? To this day, I still don't know. 3 months later, Sister S passed away. I wanted to learn so much more from her. That is something I'll always regret. 2 months after her funeral, the grief slowly began to fade, and life finally returned to normal. Sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary day, those memories suddenly come back. Everything felt so unreal that I sometimes wonder if it truly happened at all. I never told anyone. There was no reason to. I simply focused on living my life. Then one ordinary day, a letter arrived from my grandmother. Inside the envelope were 2 letters. One was from her. The other was from Sister S. My grandmother's note said, "Sister S entrusted me with this letter. She asked me to give it to you after the 49-day memorial service." Had Sister S known she was going to die? I'll never know. The letter contains something so unbelievable that I hesitate to repeat it exactly as it was written. So I'll tell it in my own words. It's been a long time. This is Sister S. So much time has passed since then. I hope you've been living peacefully. I pray you haven't had to experience that kind of fear again. I suppose old age has made me rather long-winded. The real reason I'm writing this letter is to apologize. Back then, I lied to you. The day you came to see me, I was terrified. What you brought with you was far beyond anything I could ever handle. But you were already so frightened. I couldn't allow myself to show fear as well. The truth is, sometimes, no matter how desperately you try to save someone, no matter how many times you reach out, you simply can't. That day, we were just lucky. How was your time at the head temple? Did it help ease your heart, even a little? Do you remember how I kept telling you, you're not ready to go home yet? If I had let you leave then, something far worse would have happened. I prayed every single day. But, it refused to leave for a very long time. Still, I believe you're safe now. Its presence no longer seems close to you. But, if anything strange ever happens again, go back to the head temple immediately. There, your heart will be stronger, and it should have a much harder time reaching you. There's one last thing I have to tell you. If the suffering ever becomes unbearable, entrust yourself to the Buddha. Truly evil things never end things quickly. They take their time. They wear people down, little by little, for as long as they can. They delight in watching people suffer. As painful as it is to admit, there are people even we cannot save. I did everything I could to save you. But, if I'm being honest, I'm still not certain. Its presence is gone. It doesn't seem to be nearby anymore. Even so, you must never let your guard down. It may simply be waiting, for the moment you finally feel safe. Promise me. Stay away from places that feel wrong. Don't invite unnecessary danger. Never become careless. Please, trust me. I'm sorry for all the lies. I know I have no right to ask for your trust. But please believe this one thing. Until the very end, I prayed every day for your happiness. Sister S. My hands trembled as I held the letter. Cold sweat covered my body. My heart pounded faster with every word. What was I supposed to do? Was it still not over? Suddenly, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching me from somewhere nearby. Maybe it had never left. Maybe it had only been hiding, waiting until it chose to stand before me again. Once those thoughts began, I couldn't stop them. Had Sister S been suffering because of it too? Had Hayashi heard the same whispers that night? Was that what drove him insane? Sister S had lied to keep me from falling apart. Did that mean the truth was even worse? The more I questioned everything, the farther the answers slipped away. This is everything I know. The complete story of the 2.5 years that changed my life, and that, even now, I still can't say are truly over. There was no miracle. No one appeared with all the answers. Even today, I don't know what really caused any of it. Was it coincidence? Or was it fate? I honestly can't tell. All I know is this. If it really was just coincidence, it was unimaginably cruel. So let me leave you with one final warning. If something ever possesses you, if something begins to follow you, if something decides to haunt you, your life can become a living nightmare. Even if someone tells you, it's over. Never, let your guard down. And finally, there's something I have to confess. There are small lies scattered throughout this story. Some were to make it easier to understand. Others, because there were things even I never fully understood. I hope you can forgive that. But that's not what I truly wanted to apologize for. From the very beginning, I lied about something far more important. I hid it carefully. I made sure no one would notice. Because I believed the real meaning of this story couldn't be understood otherwise. Some of you may feel disappointed. Some may notice contradictions. Even so, I wanted someone to know the truth. I'm Ken. And no matter how much I regret it now, it's far too late. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. So, what did you think? The biggest surprise was undoubtedly the final reveal, that the narrator wasn't the protagonist at all, but his friend, Ken. Because of that twist, I imagine very few people saw the ending coming. The story begins as a warning about a simple occult ritual done out of curiosity. From there, the narrator looks back on the terrifying supernatural events that followed. Naturally, we assume the person telling the story survived. That assumption becomes the perfect setup for the final twist. This video covered the story in 2 parts and condensed many sections. The original story, posted on Japan's 2 channel in 2011, is much longer, with far more conversations between the protagonist and Ken. That may explain why Ken was able to recount every detail so vividly, as if he had lived through it himself. But once the ending reveals that Ken has been the narrator all along, it raises far more questions than answers. What happened to the real protagonist? What exactly was that spirit? Let's take a closer look. The most widely accepted interpretation is that the protagonist eventually died. The biggest clue comes in the very last line. After revealing, "I'm Ken." He ends with, "No matter how much I regret it now, it's far too late." The regret isn't just about teaching his friend the forbidden ritual. It sounds like the regret of someone who lost that friend forever. If the protagonist had survived, there would have been little reason for Ken to tell the story in his place. Another important clue is Sister S's letter. She writes, "If the suffering ever becomes unbearable, entrust yourself to the Buddha." To many Western viewers, that line may sound comforting. But in Japanese, it carries a much darker implication. Rather than simply encouraging faith, it can be interpreted as preparing someone for death if there is truly no escape. In other words, the protagonist may have been killed by the spirit. Or he may eventually have chosen to end his own life after losing all hope. The story never confirms which happened. It leaves that question unanswered. Sister S's letter also changes how we view the spirit itself. When they first met, she told the protagonist that the spirit wasn't truly malicious. She described it as a lonely soul seeking warmth and human connection. But after her death, her letter paints a completely different picture. She admits that she had been terrified from the very beginning. She even warns that truly evil spirits torment their victims slowly over time, and that even experienced practitioners cannot always save them. Looking back, it almost feels as though she softened the truth simply to keep the protagonist from falling into complete despair. That realization makes the story even more unsettling. Even the person who seemed calm and dependable was frightened. Finally, this story reminds me of an old Japanese proverb. "Touch not the gods, lest they curse you." A closer English equivalent would be, "Let sleeping dogs lie." The lesson is simple. Some things are better left alone. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, curiosity alone isn't always worth the risk. Everything I've shared here is simply my own interpretation. What do you think happened? Do you believe the protagonist really died? Or do you think there was another ending? If there were any parts of the story, or any aspects of Japanese culture, that were difficult to understand, or if you have your own theories, I'd love to hear them in the comments. If you enjoyed Japanese horror stories like this, consider subscribing. And if this story gave you chills, leave a like.